So yesterday I just finished this book called The Once and Future Witches by Alix E Harrow. It's about these three sisters named James Juniper Eastwood, Agnes Amaranth Eastwood, and Beatrice Belladonna Eastwood. So this book is set in 1893 in New Salem, and this book starts off with these three sisters reuniting coincidentally in New Salem. In flashbacks, we learned that these three sisters got separated by their father, and there is a lot of resentment between these three because these three sisters wronged each other in various ways. We learned that when the eldest two daughters, Agnes Amaranth Eastwood and Beatrice Belladonna Eastwood, got sent away from home by their father, they never sent letters to James Juniper Eastwood. So James Juniper Eastwood was angry at her two older sisters, but it isn't explained immediately as to why Agnes Amaranth Eastwood and Beatrice Belladonna Eastwood are angry with each other. So, what I've noticed about this book right off the bat is that there's a lot of telling, but not much showing. For example, this book starts off with once upon a time, there were three sisters. James Juniper Eastwood was the youngest, with hair as ragged and black as crow feathers. She was the wildest of the three. The canny one, the feral one, the one with torn skirts and scraped knees, and a green glitter in her eyes like summer light through leaves. She knew where the whippoorwills nested and foxes denned. She could find her way home at midnight on the new moon. But on the spring equinox of 1893, James Juniper's lost. In the second chapter of this book, it starts off with saying, Agnes Amaranth Eastwood was the middle sister, with hair as shining and black as a hawk's eye. She was the strongest of the three, the unflinching one, the steady one, the one that knew how to work and keep working, tireless as the tide. But on the spring equinox of 1893, she is weak. And the third chapter starts with Beatrice Belladonna Eastwood was the oldest sister, with hair like owl feathers, soft and dark, streaked with early gray. She was the wisest of the three, the quiet one, the listening one, the one who knew the feel of a book's spine in her palm and the weight of words in the air. But on the spring equinox of 1893, she is a fool. I kind of understand characterizing your characters like this when you're first introducing them. But at the same time, there's a lot of better ways to characterize your characters by just listing off characteristics of your characters in a paragraph like she did in this book. But the good thing she did with this book is that she did show how these characters had these traits with what they said and what they did. So it's not like she didn't characterize her characters through showing, but at the same time, it's a little clunky by starting off these chapters, introducing your characters with listing off a bunch of characteristics of them. In flashbacks, we learn that their mother died giving birth to the youngest one, James Juniper Eastwood. So then their father was their primary caretaker. In this book, there's a lot of references to their grandmother, in which they call Mama Max. So, what I'm assuming is that their grandmother, Max, stepped into the role of being the maternal figure in their lives. So, their grandmother, Max, also taught them a bunch of rhymes, told them a bunch of stories, taught them songs, and it turns out all of these songs, stories, and rhymes are witchcraft or related to witchcraft. So, growing up, these three sisters were taught witchcraft by their grandmother. Um, so after these three sisters reunite by chance in 1893 in New Salem, they start this group called the Sisters of Avalon, where they secretly meet with other women and teach these women witchcraft. So these three sisters would go out at night with this group and practice witchcraft when everyone else is asleep so then they don't get caught doing witchcraft. But a lot of the spells that they would do would be changing the city of New Salem in a dramatic fashion so that when everyone wakes up and sees the aftermath of this spell, they knew it would be witchcraft. So basically, what the Sisters of Avalon are doing is that they are making displays of witchcraft by going out at night and casting spells and then leaving whatever remnants of their spell there for people to find the next day. For example, the Sisters of Avalon went out at night and casted this spell to sprout this tree that resembles the tree from Jack and the Beanstalk. So they used this spell to sprout this humongous tree that was several hundred feet tall, really thick, was green. So basically, when the townspeople were to wake up, they would find this giant tree that was impossible to exist without witchcraft just suddenly there. So naturally, these women got hunted down because it's 1893 in New Salem and they were practicing witchcraft and were being overt with it on purpose. They got attacked several times, but in the end, they were victorious. So I went over a lot of what happened because I was just speaking on the major plot points. Because this book is like 511 pages, so a lot more happened in this book than what I said. Overall, I would give this book a 7 out of 10 because Alix E Harrow did put a lot of telling into this book. So some points in this book it was kind of clunky, but at the same time, she did also include a lot of showing. Overall, this book is very interesting and keeps you engaged in this book. In the beginning of the book, there's a lot of exposition and just a lot of backstory shown through flashbacks, as I've said. I feel like this book would have been better if the exposition and backstory were to be spread throughout the book more evenly instead of putting a bunch of the exposition and backstory right at the beginning, because at the first 200 pages, it's very hard to follow because there's just a bunch of exposition, a lot of backstory, a bunch of flashbacks explaining what has happened in the past. And while the backstory is very important to what is happening in this book, it could have been shown better by spreading it out throughout the book. So overall, The Once and Future Witches by Alix E Harrow is a very good book, and it is interesting, but it could be better if the author had made some edits to the book.